Hi, my name's Tim Fahlberg. I'm really honored to be with you all and share about NaviLens technology and how it could be incorporated into Build a Better book projects. Let's see, I got two screens here. So a little, I'm sorry, let me back up here. There is a QR code and a bit.ly link to this presentation, but you know what? I'll paste it. I'll paste it in the chat, or if somebody wants to paste it in the chat. I shared it with you earlier, Gigi. And I'm hoping that by now people got NaviLens and NaviLens Go apps. You'll actually have an opportunity to try both of those during our session today. So here is our agenda. And 45 minutes, going to try to do a lot, but definitely have time at the end for questions, share a little bit about myself, a little bit about the history of NaviLens, current uses, how we're using NaviLens at our school, and then focus on a number of free aspects of NaviLens, including NaviLens tags for Build a Better book projects. And then I'll share some additional resources and invite you to connect with me because I'm happy to do that. I'm a teacher like many of you, are an educator, and love to connect with people and share great ideas. So a little bit about me. So I teach. I've been teaching for about 25 years. I currently teach. I've been here at the Wisconsin School for the Blind and Visually Impaired for about 6 years. I've done a lot with TechSmith product screen recording, making math movies, and I'm an unofficial, I call myself an unofficial NaviLens evangelist. So 5 years ago, I was looking for a way to improve indoor mapping and wayfinding at our school. And I looked into beacons. I spent hundreds of hours looking at lots of technologies. And so then one day I was listening to Eyes on Success podcast, which by the way is also how I learned about wonderful BBB projects. And this podcast led me to NaviLens. And I was like, wow, this sounds interesting. So I wrote multiple times to the company and finally connected with them. And we tried out their personal tags. We put up a giant tag on a wall, and one of my blind students, it's like, she's my go-to student, Mara, and you'll see her later. She said, yeah, we ought to look into this because we put up one free tag. We could scan it from 30 feet away. We could make it say what we wanted to. So they loaned us 50 tags. And those 50 tags that they loaned us turned into 500 tags that we purchased. And then we've been out to the community and sharing about NaviLens. And I'll share more about the NaviLens school kit that my students and I worked to create. We competed very successfully in a Samsung Solve for Tomorrow contest. And then a year ago, NaviLens loaned me personally 500 tags to create, I called them, sorry, I do this distracting me in the background in the hallway. Right, to create super flashcards. And I'm going to show you how many of these can be used later in Build a Better book projects. Just a little introduction to NaviLens. The original problem they were trying to solve, this is a company in Spain. They had a lot of blind people who couldn't get to jobs independently on transit or get to college, university. So they were trying to find a way to help visually impaired people get to jobs because you can imagine, traditional signage is just not accessible. So they first experimented with QR codes, and all of us know about QR codes. They're just not great at being like seen at large distances. You have to focus on them. Well, if you're blind, if you don't know the QR codes there, how can you focus on it? But they tried that, and they went through a number of different kinds of tags. You can see here over a period of 5 years. So this was a collaboration between a university in Spain and a startup. And finally, after 5 years, they came up and they patented. They have all these international patents on their technology. When I saw it, I was like, well, of course this makes sense, right? And Microsoft actually had some kind of technology like this, but it didn't catch on. But NaviLens is catching on now. And here's some of the people of NaviLens. It's you can see it's a pretty young group of people. Javier Pita, the founder and CEO, he's on the far right of this photo. He's become a real personal friend. He and I have Skyped together multiple times. He loves what my students and I have done. We're the first school in the United States that adopted NaviLens, and it's just been a really neat partnership with them. I do have this slide, and a number of my slides I'm going to skip through, but they're there in case you'd like to refer to them later. A lot of you already know a lot about QR codes, and I've done a little bit of comparing and contrasting between QR codes and NaviLens codes, or I call them NaviLens tags. Current uses of NaviLens. Now here's a place where you're going to get to try some things. So actually I want to just start for a moment. Can you see there's 5 screens on this? Yeah, okay. So if you have NaviLens on your phone right now, could you open it? And if it's your first time opening it, you just have to take about 30 seconds. Maybe you've already done this, but I don't want to take anything for granted. You have to accept their terms of use. And sure, yeah, you're probably like me. You don't have all the time to read through terms of use. So you're like, I hope this is good. And you check the box. You have to just do a couple other things. I personally don't like to turn on notifications from any app, but you can turn on notifications. I just suggest you don't. And at the very far right, I suggest that you allow it to use your location. That's not really critical for now. So you don't have to allow that. That's not going to really change how things work. Later on, 5-10 years, when NaviLens becomes ubiquitous, it'll make sense to turn on location, let it know where you are. Okay, and then, right, there's help available. So you might want to just take a moment and do this. If you tap on the settings button or the main menu button, the bottom left corner, you might have to scroll down depending on the size of your text, but you should find help at the bottom. Do you see that, Gigi or Stacy? Okay, and then there's really nice help built in. I'm not gonna, I'll walk through some of the features of NaviLens, but I wouldn't do it justice, so I encourage you to look at the help. There's also a 20-some page PDF at the end if you're a reader and want to read more about the details, but I'll let you do that. Okay, and then finally, just want everybody to set it up the same way, just a couple little settings. If you tap that main menu button and then tap settings at the top, and then tap location mode, that's number 3 for the steps here. I would encourage you to turn off sounds for now, because it'll be distracting if you leave sounds on. Sounds are more useful for a visually impaired blind person because they'll actually help them find a tag that's maybe partially seen out in the environment. Okay, and then if you can tap the back button, and if you go to reading options, it probably looks like this already, but just make sure that I prefer short texts is off. Is it off for you, Gigi or Stacy? Okay, great. All right, now let's have a little bit of fun. So I'm going to talk and show you this example. This is a NaviLens tag that is in the Los Angeles Metro. And if you scan this tag, I would scan it first with NaviLens. You should hear and see on the text, if you have vision, you should hear a description of kind of where you're at and places that you can get to. Is that working for you? Yeah, okay, all right. And then for the moment, I wouldn't necessarily try to scan that with NaviLens Go, but you're welcome to do that. I'm going to talk more about NaviLens Go, but I wanted to give you the idea of this. Imagine now that you're blind going down into the metro. Scary place, right? I mean, scary even if you're not blind sometimes. If you're not familiar with it, you don't know where to go. But now imagine that there's NaviLens there. You scan tags that tell you where you are and help you get to places. What a difference that could make for independence of blind visually impaired people when this becomes more commonplace. And it is becoming more commonplace. In the United States, it's in LA. San Antonio is just about to adopt it and put it on some 5,000 bus stops. Anyway, it's becoming more common in transit. And then I need to start moving a little more quickly. Here's a slide that I'm going to invite you to scan the tag on later. I just want you to see that NaviLens tags can go on the ground, and then they on tactile paving too, and that offers some special things. And then, oh, I don't want to play that video. I want to go to the next slide. Come on. All right. There we go. This is a special slide that if you scan the tag, and I want you to go ahead and do that for a moment, it's going to actually, if you scan it with NaviLens, you're going to start hearing all sorts of noises, probably. It's starting something called NaviLens 360. Are you hearing that, Gigi or Stacy? Yeah, okay. So NaviLens 360, imagine if you're blind, you scan a bus stop, but then you need to use your cane and get to that bus stop. It might be 20, 30, 50 feet away. NaviLens 360 will locate that tag and keep a memory of where that tag it is. So even if you're like, can't keep your phone image, scanning that tag, it'll help you get back and say to that bus stop. So if that's what's happening and you're getting a little freaked out, there's an arrow at the bottom of the screen that you can tap, and then it should reduce that sound. Okay, moving along. Here's a video, just a short 2-3 minute video I invite you to look at later that will share more about NaviLens in transit. Come on. Okay, now what I'd like you to do is take a moment to set up the NaviLens Go app. And you don't really have to do very much. It's just if you open NaviLens Go, then there is a blue button in the upper right-hand corner. It looks like gears, the typical settings. If you tap on settings, right now it should be on multimedia, correct? Okay, later on you'll be able to change it to say sign language, pictograms, easy reading. But you can see there's some other options to change the font size and the speaking speed. By the way, in NaviLens, you can change the speaking speed too. And you can get to the history, so you can get back to tags. So you went to a museum, saw some things, you can get to the history and go back and revisit tags and information. Okay, that's about all you need to do there. Okay. So then here is why I asked you to do that. If you would take a moment and scan this tag with NaviLens Go, please. And I'm going to do the same thing. Do you see it says something like Adrian Bust? Okay, and then there's actually a play button, so you can listen to that. And then you can see there's like multiple images that you can, so NaviLens Go is for people with vision or who may be deaf, maybe traveling in a wheelchair. So you need some vision to use NaviLens Go. But now, what I'd like you to do is make sure that your phone is not aimed towards the tag on the screen. Tap the settings button, and then change the preferred content to sign language, please. Okay, and now try scanning that tag. And what should happen is, in a moment, you should see and hear Spanish being spoken, along with a woman signing in Spanish Sign Language. So you're probably not going to understand this unless you understand either Spanish or Spanish Sign Language. That's because the company's in Spain. I've got many tags that speak in sign language. I'll show you later. Okay, but that's how that works. You can see there's all these different modes. The neat thing about NaviLens is that it's not just good for the blind or visually impaired. It's good for people with sight. It's good for people who are maybe speak sign language. That's their preferred language. And then I'm going to skip to the next slide. Sorry, and I'm going to skip to the next slide again. I'll come back and talk more about the different uses of NaviLens. But I wanted, this is getting towards the end of current uses. Kellogg's in Europe. There were some students at a school for the blind who said to Kellogg's, your packaging is not accessible. Could you do something to improve it? So Kellogg's partnered with the Royal National, it's called the RNIB in England. It's kind of like the NFB in England. And NaviLens, they put Braille and NaviLens on 50,000 boxes of Kellogg's Cocoa Pops. And what they found was, well, Braille's expensive. Not all that many blind people even read Braille, unfortunately, or can read Braille. But the NaviLens tags were hugely popular. And so in 2022, Kellogg's is going to put NaviLens tags on all of their packaging in Europe. So pretty soon I'm going to get after my students, and we're going to coordinate with some blind students at other schools for the blind. And we're going to work on leaning on our people that package in the United States, right? Because why should blind people, yeah, they can scan There's all sorts of apps to scan barcodes, you know, on packaging, but they can't do what NaviLens can do and speak in Spanish and do so many other things. So you can try this. There's a video here too you can come back to, and I have to keep track of the time. It's 12:31. I'm about 14 minutes in. Okay, I'm good. Yeah, so if anybody here speaks Spanish or French or another language, if your phone's in a different language, any of 33 languages, NaviLens will just use Google Translate, automatically translate to the text and the speech to that. Yes, I showed you this, and we already did this. Oh, but here's another tag. This is actually relates to the Build a Better Book project. I have those 500 tags. I'm probably going to make a good 50 to 100 of them just be for numbers. So like, here's what you're seeing here is a small, like, flashcard that's got Braille. It's actually math Braille. It's called Nemeth on it, but it's got a NaviLens tag. Anyway, the idea here is if you scan this, and you can try this now, scan it with NaviLens, you should hear the number 12. Scan it with NaviLens Go with sign language on, and you should see a short, like 3-second video, somebody signing 12 in American Sign Language. Okay, so you can come back to this. Sorry, I have to go so fast, but I'm really honored that you gave me 45 minutes. Thanks. NaviLens at WCBVI. This will be brief. As I've shared before, we have, now it's been 2 years, but you know how, sorry, everybody lost sort of a year and a half, but we've had NaviLens at our school for 2 years, but it's really because students were the driving force behind us getting it, that we did so much with it. And I'd really like to invite you to watch some of the 5 videos in this playlist. I think this playlist is why Samsung eventually awarded us something like $18,000 in technology for, we have stuff now for a mobile fab lab, but I really credit my students and their videos and their passion. We have tags all over school. I'm just gonna flip through a couple of these. Oh, and this is Elias. He shares, one of our staff people said, oh, could you put NaviLens tags on artwork and make it speak for itself? And I was like, OMG, that's a great idea. So, and I'll talk more later with you about personal versus public tags. Spanish, right. People ask about the cost. We got a really good deal. It was $10 a tag, like about $1 per year per tag for maintenance. It's more expensive than that for public tags, but I can probably get some public tags for you all to have for your projects. We could talk about that. Here's a cool thing. Imagine you're blind. You want to be able to find restrooms independently. And wouldn't it be great if you could know the layout of a restroom when you approach it? So that's a very cool thing that NaviLens could do. Imagine someday Walmart's or just any place, you walk into it, if you're blind, they have NaviLens tags, and you're blind and you can find the restroom independently, scan a tag. So if you scan this tag right now, it will describe one of the restrooms on our campus, or you can try it later. But it seems like a simple thing with dignity, right? Why do blind people have to walk into restrooms with their white canes and have to knock around? You know, I just can't even imagine. It's like you and I walking into a public restroom where there's other people in the dark, right? Not very appealing. All right. Cool thing that our students did, they made several videos asking Javier Pita if we could give away some of our tags. And now we can give away some of these tags, many of these, to you all for your projects. So here, for example, is a tag. We have lots of posters with Braille on them around our school, but many of our students who are totally blind and Braille readers, they don't necessarily just feel every wall to see where there's Braille. So here's a tag that if you scan the tag, it says, oh, there's a poster with Braille on it, kind of like inviting you to read Braille. So if you use Braille in your Build a Better Book projects, I'm happy to share tags with you that can let people know that there's Braille inside and maybe share a little bit about your project too. We put tags on our assistive technology. So if you use assistive technology or even just things like 3D printers in your classrooms, I'm happy to create some and give you NaviLens tags for your technology, especially assistive technology. And we could collaborate on those tags to make them do helpful things for all students. That's a very exciting thing, again, that our students got permission to do. Let's see, and it is 12:36. Okay, I'm gonna not spend too much time, but this is important. Our students, NaviLens had a free NaviLens school kit with 50, 60 tags in it. And then our students, it now has 116 tags because our students thought about all the elementary, middle, and high school common places in the United States. And our students came up with a new list of, or an additional list of 60 places, you know, like the gym, the principal's office, of course. There's a tag for the, here, I'll go to this tag. Yeah, if you would all just take a moment, try to scan this tag. People often ask, how would you know NaviLens is in this building? Well, this is the first tag a school would put up at their entrance. And are you hearing it say, welcome to our NaviLens powered school? Because people need to know there's NaviLens in there. So anyway, our students contributed 60 tags. So now there's a total of 116 free tags. People can download them. Probably only really want to print about 60 of them, laminate them, and then put them up and put them up circularly and maybe up high on the wall so that the idiot boys don't mix up the girls' restroom tags with the boys' restroom tags, right? That's the kind of thing. Anyway, you can make a tag also say girls' restroom and boys' restroom. So if you see the tags moving around, I'm just thinking some of you are at schools and schools with blind, visually impaired kids. And this is an easy, free way to experiment. You could just go to the NaviLens site. There's actually a link back on this slide where you could just go to the NaviLens and get the PDF. They'll email you a PDF with 116 tags. Oh, I'm just going to end this way. The wonderful people at Eyes on Success, they did that original podcast on NaviLens 2 years ago. That's what I listened to. Then they've since done 2 new podcasts, one with my students and I about NaviLens school kits, and then another one with Javier Pita sharing about NaviLens. And then again, it's that Eyes on Success podcast. I'm so grateful I learned about the Build a Better Book project. Oh yeah, this is kind of a fun thing. We have a big tag at the front of our school. It's about 18 inches by 18 inches, and it's visible from the street 100 feet away. You have to turn zoom on a NaviLens, but you don't even have to really aim it very close to the front of the school. Just have to know the school's over there. Oh, somebody's asking, is the app NaviLens or NaviLens Go? So there are 2 apps. NaviLens, and I should have made this clear early. NaviLens was their first app, good for blind and visually impaired people or for sighted people. It will mostly speak to you, but it can also link to resources. And then there's NaviLens Go, which is for sighted people or deaf people that speak sign language. Could be for children, because you can make content specific for children. So there's 2 different apps, and you can try them both with any of these tags, and they should work. Some of them will do different things. NaviLens offers free personal tags. They're up to 4 sets now. Each set has 101 tags. You can request those from inside the NaviLens app. You just get an email with PDFs with tags. And here's a picture of what you would get. You get 5 pages, you get a giant tag, 8.5 by 11, all the way down to 64 little tags that are 1 inch by 1 inch. I'm happy to send you sets of these. I just print them out. I'll just send me your mailing address. I'll mail you multiple sets of whatever you want. Happy to do that. Yeah, you can buy sheets of labels, but I've got like literally thousands of sheets of labels. Yeah, you can print and cut the tags. You can tape them up with Scotch tape. The only rub with tags is personal tags. They will work on your phone and up to like 5 other people's phones using the friends and family feature that they added. So that's different than public tags. I've mostly been showing you public tags. Okay, all right, I guess that's all I've been showing you until now. Here's if you want to get started with the personal tags, here's a great 6-minute video. This fellow in England will walk you through using them. Not rocket science. Students can do it with voiceover. So if you have blind, visually impaired students, they can easily set up their own personal tags. It's pretty cool stuff. Here's a tactile personal tag. Many of you know about making, we call them toasters. You get the swell paper, you print on with black with a laser printer. If you print them with blue with a laser printer, that the blue doesn't get raised up. I don't know if you know that. But anyway, here's a tactile personal tag. If you scan that now or later, you'll hear blank tag use the personal note option to complete it. You could try that later. So you don't necessarily need to print out your own tags. Yes, here's my favorite part, because this is all about you. And I mean, I should say us. I want my students to be actively build a better book projects. It's a mouthful. So one of the things that NaviLens did was I actually wrote for a grant to get several hundred tags. It was going to cost several $1,000s. But NaviLens said, no, don't wait for a grant. We'll just loan you 500 tags to make. They like the idea of the ideas I had. And now the benefit is for you all in the Build a Better Book project. Here, for example, is a link to Teachers Pay Teachers, where it's free. And you can download, this is a set, if you print these off, you get 2 sets of the 26 letters A to Z. So if you take your phone right now and just scan that example tag, you should hear the letter T, and then you should also hear dots 2, 3, 4, 5. Does that work for any of you that are trying it? Anyway, so that's an example. So there's 26 of those tags. Here's another set. I'm going to enlarge this set. So if you want to do anything with numbers, I'm going to probably make it a set from 0 to 100 and add a lot of math symbols and some other stuff. So there's another free set that you could incorporate potentially some of these into your Build a Better Book project. You know, basically, if you can imagine if you have a number or a letter so far, you can incorporate. I've seen a number of examples of Build a Better Book projects where it's A for Apple and there's some Braille. You can imagine putting a tag on the A page. Where am I for time? 12:42. Okay, we're good. So I created a huge set, 100 times 200 tags I devoted for multiplication math facts. I don't know that you want to do that, but my goal is to make those not only be math facts that speak, like here's one for 9 times 9 equals, and it will work in multiple languages. Oh, how far tags? Oh, you know, I'm going to answer. These are great questions you're asking. I'm going to answer these at the end, if that's okay. I'm sure there's a lot more great questions in there, because I have some thoughts on that. I just happened to see the chat for that one. Oh, right. I'm hoping to work with some sign language interpreters and some deaf people if you're interested in adding some ASL, or maybe I've been working with a Chinese sign language speaker too. So having tags that can speak in multiple sign languages as well. Yeah, these we print on 1/2-inch tags. There's a video in my blog. I started a blog a few months ago to try to put some videos and things in there. Oh, stop talking. I looked through the projects in the gallery and I saw lots of projects that involved animal shapes, science. And anyway, here's some ideas that I have, but I'm hoping you see at the bottom of this slide, this is really super important, maybe the most important thing I'll say. What other sets of tags or individual tags, now that you've kind of gotten an idea of what NaviLens can do, could you and your team use? And I'm sure you have some ideas now and you'll come up with more ideas later. Email these to me, we can dialogue. I think NaviLens will give me even more than 500 tags for this. It's just super important. Right. So here's one example. Did one of you create this? The tactile alphabet, the multilingual? Somebody in this group here, are they here? Gigi or Stacy that did this project?
I don't think they're here.
They're not here. Okay.
We've had several different groups do something very similar. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So imagine, like, I just loved, this was a huge thing, and just a single tag. It could obviously have multiple tags, but that single tag can then share about that, a lot about that project. Because with NaviLens Go, you can actually build a whole like web page with videos and I mean, just on and on. So that was a fun one because it was multilingual, and I was thinking, oh, NaviLens multilingual. So so that tag actually works, and I'm going to keep that tag. One of my goals is to help NaviLens do really well in the United States and elsewhere, because I want this technology to be around for 10, 20, 50 years, just get better, because I don't want any of these tags that I'm sharing with you to ever go away, right? We've all had that experience. Here's some ways to get in touch with me. If you're familiar with live binders, I have a live binder and there's a link to it that has lots of resources. I need to start adding Build a Better Book resources to it. Here's the blog that I mentioned that I've started. And here's my email address. Email address is, and what time is it? 12:46. I know I talked quickly. I hope that, okay. All right, now I'm seeing some questions. So let me go to honor whoever asked the first question. Let me go up here. Let's see. Oh, somebody, let's see, I got to get to the top of this. Wow, there's some questions. And you know what? I'm going to click on save chat at the end of this so that I can connect with you later and give you more thoughtful answers if I don't get to all of them right now. Let's see.
And
Oh,
I think
that's
one of the questions was about how far away tags should be from each other to prevent noise.
sure.
Because it
So
takes-
if NaviLens sees multiple tags, it will tell you it sees multiple tags because it can see, even if you hold up the sheet of 64, if you're a foot away from that, it'll say, I see 64 tags, and it will tell you the one that is, it's like most centered on. What I tend to do, if I have multiple, if I need to have something that has multiple tags, let me turn off my background. Stop. Virtual background. Okay, this is what I do, and I didn't put a slide in here, but what I've done here is I've got, this is a piece of paper that has 3 tags on it. And let's see, let me hold this up. Yeah, the camera's here, Tim. All right, so there's a tag here that's about this Google Doc. And then what I did is the other tags, if there's several tags you really want to have, I just put Post-its over them. And if somebody's going to be blind or visually impaired, I use a special filament. It's called TPU filament with a 3D pen to draw a little tactile bar across it. So that way somebody can find that tag and then they can put it anywhere over another tag. So me personally, like in the hallway with big tags, I only have one tag like every 5-10 feet, because if a student's walking down a hallway, I want them to, so you know what, I'm going to think of a better answer because I'm kind of rambling a little bit. Okay, and maybe we can have a document, but did you see what you saw at least what I did there? If you have multiple tags that are in close proximity, I'm actually going to ask NaviLens if they would add a feature so that if there's multiple NaviLens tags and there's tactile elements, that if you put your finger next to a NaviLens tag that's maybe got a, some kind of tactile border, tactile thing, the NaviLens say, oh, there's a finger next to that tag. That's the one I should read. That would be an easy thing for, I've seen other companies do that with QR codes. So that's possible. What's another good question you see? Sure, Stacy or Gigi.
About, is this similar to Way Around?
So before I found NaviLens, maybe the year before it, I found Way Around, and actually I love Way Around. So Way Around is excellent. The challenge with Way Around is you have to be right up against it with your phone or with their little NFC scanner. Okay, that you have to, so you have to know where the tag is, and you have to either get your phone with the NFC right up against it, or you have to get that little Bluetooth scanner they have that's paired up with your phone and then right up against it. Versus NaviLens, you can be at a distance from it. My little tags that are on my little 1/2-inch tags, they can be scanned from a foot or 2 away. Those are on flashcards. But like you saw, like in our hallways, you can be walking down the hallway 20, 30, 50 feet away and scan it. Way Around, and then Way Around tags cost $1 each. So for public tags for Way Around, I know it's more than that. It's a complicated thing. But I love Way Around. I love the people of Way Around because they were actually trying to solve the same problem with like describing restrooms. And I know a lot about Way Around. I have a ton of Way Around stuff. It's good for labeling like clothing and other kinds of things. And I know people have used Way Around at museums and things for projects. I need to reconnect with the Way Around. I'm not just all about NaviLens. I'm all about what makes things accessible. So thanks for asking that. I'm going to get back in contact with the Way Around people and find out what the cost is for their public tags, because I think for some BBB projects, Way Around would make a lot of sense too. Sure. And if one of you loves Way Around or several of you, I'd love to dialogue with you more about that. Oh, you can't see, is
Can
my
you,
power?
I think we fixed that, but can you
Oh, yeah,
talk a little bit about the school kit and what that includes? Because I know you were
sure. Yeah,
there for
so
people
the
on here that
school
might be
kit,
interested.
yeah, in fact, let's see, it's 12:51. Can you ask me another question? It's gonna take me a minute. I'm gonna go look in my drive and bring up the list of the tags that are in the school kit so I can talk about it
Okay.
a little bit more. So while I'm looking for that, can you ask me another question?
There's also a question here from someone at an agency that serves a variety of clients, and she's curious about the pictogram option. So is that an option that's currently in English, or can you talk a little bit more about that
Yeah,
option?
so I don't know much about pictograms. Oh, and one thing I'm not showing, you know what? So I'm gonna talk about the school kit. It's 12:51. Do I have about 10 minutes left? Is that what I have?
Mhm.
Okay. All right, let me do this. I'm going to digress, and then I'm going to come back to the school kit because I think it's important that you see this, because I'm dead serious about, or I'm very serious about trying to get some free tags. I got some for Gigi, Kat, and Stacy to experiment with, and I'd love to get some more, like several at least for each of you to experiment with. So what I'm doing right now is I'm going to my flashcard set. Oh, you can't see my screen. I'm sorry. I apologize. Let me share my screen. All right. Are you seeing this now? It's got like 6 tags on there. All right. This is the interface for changing a NaviLens tag. All right. So I'm going to speak to several things, but I'm going to start with the pictograms, since pictograms. All right. Suppose I wanted to add, I'm just going to pick this first tag here just to show you. It says edit is the tooltip. It's pretty small there, but now you can see on this screen, there's a preview of the tag. So you can test it right there. I always give my tags a name. I put them in a spreadsheet. You don't want to hear all about that. So in the NaviLens app, you simply type the text you want it to speak in English, and then you can change. It will automatically translate to Google Translate, but if you want to change what it speaks, you can do that. There's something about short text. I'm not going to go there. I'm going to go over to NaviLens app, and let's see. Now, what can I tell you about pictograms? I think what I have to do is I have to change it to multimedia content. Oh, no. I'm sorry. I haven't done a ton of this. That's where you can add multimedia content. Pictograms, and you know what? Now you're, oh, here it is. In functional diversity, which I've been there a lot because that's how I add sign language videos to NaviLens tags. There's this pictogram, and basically you can add images for pictograms. All I know is the word pictogram. I'm sorry. So if one of you knows about pictograms, I'd love to work with you and learn myself. And then maybe we can blog about it and share about it with others. But it certainly is possible. And I tell you, that person who asked about pictograms, you're like on the top of my list now to get some public tags if you want to try stuff out, because I think that's a cool way to, easy to read. You can just put in some easy to read text for a student. What else is, yeah, there's a lot more here. I'm mostly just self-taught. They don't really have any videos, but they have good like PDFs that walk you through how to set things up, but it's not rocket science. Back to the school kit, because that's really super important. Let's see, NaviLens not public. Are you? Oh, are you still seeing my screen now? You're seeing me digging around in my Google Drive. All right. Yeah. Where's my school kit? Well. You all, I'm sure you've never had this problem. All right, here is a list of the tags that are in the NaviLens school kit, and I'm going to open up one of these in a minute. No, sure, I'll just open up. But basically, there's a long list here, and this has some tags that are really suitable for the United States, like the 60 tags that my students added to it. There's another probably 20 or so from the Spanish set that would still be good in the United States. And then they have some tags that just say like 5. But if I open up one of these, if I open up like the gym tag, it just looks like this. It's a tag that you print on, typically on an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, just plain paper, laminate it with matte laminate. I can tell you more details. At the bottom here, let me zoom back in on this. Come on, Tim, you can, oh, wow. That was scary. Oh yeah, it's catching up to me. Anyway, there's some information about how to read the tag that's on the very bottom. Let me just open up another tag, just scroll down. So it tells you some instructions. You can cut this off at the bottom for where to put it up, that kind of information. But the NaviLens school kit, the idea is that a school that has one or more blind or visually impaired students would start with this kit. It should cost no more than about $1 per sign to print, laminate, and put good adhesive. And I can tell you all about adhesives. I've learned a lot. You don't want to make my mistakes I've made. But when the tags are up, it's a start. Then a school would really want to, actually a student, a TVI could walk around with a student, and the student, like say to their math classroom, a tag's next to that student's math classroom. All right. So that on another day when that student walks down that hallway, they think, oh, my math classroom, I think it's somewhere in this hallway, and they're scanning for tags. Oh, math classroom. The student can actually add an annotation to that tag that will only be on that student's classroom that tells them, oh, that's my first period class, or that's Mr. Smith, whatever, that kind of thing. After starting with a set of NaviLens tags, a free set, NaviLens, you really, that wouldn't be enough. A school would want to get some public tags. And NaviLens would sell a small set of like 10 or 20 tags at a fair price to any school that wants to do more to customize the tags to help that student. And I can guarantee that the local Lions Club would fund that stuff in a minute if the school hesitates from spending, whether it's $500 for 10 tags or whatever it is. A local Lions Club, happy to do that. What else is in the chat for questions? And I know we're running lower on time.
I've seen quite a bit of interest, Tim. So I think you'll have some new BBB partners playing with this at their schools, which will be
wonderful.
fantastic.
I feel so fortunate to have connected with all of you. When I saw what the BBB was about, I was like, no, I don't know of any other organization, doing anything like this with the people that have the passion for it. And I'm super excited about offering. I love QR codes. I do. I think they're great, but they can do exactly one thing and you have to image on it, right? I mean, you all have had that experience. When I saw NaviLens tags, I was like, my head exploded because they're good for making places accessible. You saw it like in transit. But then, and I'm sure many of you are going to have this, if your own epiphanies about what you can do with this, especially when you get some public tags that you can do, whether it's pictograms or other kinds of things that, share with the team here, because that's what happened with me and my students. We're like, wait, couldn't we do this with it? Couldn't we do this with it? And with you all, with your creative ideas and all the students that you work with, wow. And I just love the idea of being a part of a group that is so dedicated to creating accessible materials for the blind and visually impaired, and also just changing the awareness, right, of the whole accessibility and the whole area. Oh, many of your students have never met a blind or visually impaired person in their life. And yet I tell you, my students will be happy to connect with some of your students, and I think that'll be a fun thing too. And anyway, I'm honored to be with you all, and feel free to email me questions. You can tell I don't get a lot of sleep, but I'm like you.
We had a quick question from Neil about, can the school kits be customized or are the tags set?
The tags in the school kit are set. Yeah. Individual tags, right, they can be sort of customized by individual students or staff who use them, but then those customizations would only be on the students or staff's phones. But what you could do is you could put a personal tag. Anyway, you can use any number of personal tags around a school, so they could also be used by students to do sort of customized things, but they would just be for that student and their friends and family.
But that still seems really useful if it can be customized for that student and it then shows up.
Right. But the other thing I can tell you is that if you get really interested in NaviLens, the NaviLens people, okay, they focused on transit, I think because they can sell like $500,000 worth of tags to Tokyo, right? That's a big deal. A school like ours, they're like, we won't let you buy less than 500 tags. I was like, oh my God, what's that going to cost? Anyway, the way I'm heading is I built a relationship with them that I want to have that help you all. And I think what can happen is if you're interested in this and you show like what you can do with NaviLens, the NaviLens will probably be quite willing to loan you personally like 5 tags or 10 tags. And when you do amazing things with it, then like me, more doors can open potentially for you. They're not all about money. Javier Pita has a brother who is blind. So that's what changed his awareness and his world, his life's focus. They're not about just money. Of course, they need to stay in business, right? Make money. But they're like you all. They want to change the world for the better for all sorts of people with disabilities. Yeah.
And I know we're just about out of time, Tim. I just wanted to ask one clarifying question. I know you touched on personal tags, but just for our Build a Better Book partners, keep in mind those could be used for free, even if it's only on a few devices, right? It would only work for the person who created it, and then for their small network of friends and family that they share it with. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's a neat idea. So if you have like 2 or 3 or 4 classroom iPads or something like that, they could all have accounts sort of on them and be friends. So that way you could have those 4 or 5 devices or 4 or 5 people in a group able to use that same personal tag. Correct.
Because I just wanted to clarify for folks that there is this free option that would allow, especially for students that are just prototyping or kind of coming up with ideas for how these tags could be used to enhance a book or a poster or something, that there's a way that they could play with it without having to invest a significant amount in public tags.
The other thing that's possible, like when I get some tags, I'm going to go, and if people, you all in the group say, everybody here wants to start with 1 or 2 tags, and I multiply that by the number of units, maybe it's 20 or 40 tags. Just imagine I get those from NaviLens. The neat thing is that if you have a couple of tags or maybe more than a couple of tags, you can also assign those to students. So those are only students that can edit those tags, kind of thing. But yes, Stacy, I love your idea that students can do some prototyping and trying things out, because hey, that's what we did. The NaviLens tags we had could have text that we typed in them. They could also have one link to some kind of video resource or some other Google Doc or accessible PDF. So there is a fair amount, that you can do for, I like that for prototyping, just with the free tags. And there's boatloads of them, 404 of them or something. Yeah. The important thing about tags is if a tag is supposed to be, I've learned this the hard way. If a tag is programmed in the cloud to be 8.5 by 11, and you shrink it down, the way the technology works, it's going to get I don't say confused. I would walk down the hall and it would tell me that a tag was like 30 feet away when I was right up next to her, things like that. So don't shrink tags up or down from their original size, or if you're interested in knowing how far away the tag is. Anyway, I know too much stuff, too many details, sorry.
Well, thank you so much, Tim, for that overview. I think you have a lot of interested folks who are going to be following up with you for more information and checking out the school kit and how they might bring that to some of their schools, especially for folks working with students who might be in general education settings where they're, amongst sighted students. So helping with navigation at school settings.
Right. Oh yeah, they could run with this stuff in so many directions once the students see what's possible. Thanks, Stacy. That's a great summary. Yeah. Thank you all again very much for inviting me, and I can't wait to see what your students and your projects and I can't wait to see what our students are excited about this too. So thanks.
Thanks, Tim. That was really great.